Hello and welcome to update number 34. Now I have been awake for 33 hours. And let's do a small little quick update from the clock to see. It says 1 day, 8 hours, 52 minutes and 23 seconds. And unfortunately, because I'm using the front-facing camera so I can see myself, it's one of the techniques I've been using to get comfortable with talking to the camera, because it's easier when I see myself. Then it's like I'm talking to myself, so which I'm kind of also doing with these videos. If these videos help other people, then that is amazing and makes me warm to the soul. If I get in the future confirmation that my videos and me doing this help other people, then that is the cream on top and the cherry on top of that. But the main reason why I do this is for myself. One thing, like I've mentioned in a previous video, and I'm probably gonna repeat stuff because of the sleep deprivation is now starting to get to me, so I might repeat stuff, but I can't really do anything about it, so let's just continue. Well, in this video I would like to go through my early years in school and my relationship with school. And I've always liked school for the school part. Unfortunately, the problems I've had with the bullying and being different and having disorders that potentially untreated can lead to how to explain it good, it's a detriment, can be a detriment to my ability to absorb information, because I might have been in need of a different technique for learning with my disabilities in mind. But since nobody knew, I just barreled along and struggled in some areas of school, and others I flourished in. For instance, which is most probably connected in a positive way to my autism, which is I've always had a knack for math, and that has been an immense help throughout my life. Otherwise, I'm very sure that I would have financially spiraled even further than I have already. I've been thinking a lot for years about what the reason is with my problem financially and my problem with handling money in correct ways up until a few years ago, when I started to really focus on changing my financial habits so I can as soon as possible start to invest and to save for the future for real. And I've tried out the different sorts just to have a feel for it, and it has been not so successful for the most part, but I've been learning, and it's been worth every single crown I've invested and lost, because the lessons it had taught me about finances and about handling money and investing and saving and stuff has helped me to lay the foundation in my budgeting and in my lifestyle, so that I can focus on that and build up alternative income sources, so I don't have to stress so much. Because for the most part in my life, nearly my entire life, handling money, I've always lived paycheck to paycheck and often in deficit. So I have racked up immense debt over time, but fortunately enough, I have had a family who have pushed me subconsciously to fix different times. Like for instance, I've moved out of town to a town 2 hours away by car, and in Sweden that's quite a lot, long way. So I moved out there and lived there for a couple of years, and then when I moved back, I had racked up about a little over $15,000 or 15,000 euros in debt to different loan institutes and different payments I didn't pay for stuff I bought on credit and stuff. And thanks to my parents' upbringing of me and my shame of racking up that debt, and my parents taking that on and paying it for me, so I owe them instead, kicked me in butt enough to get rid of about 85 to 90% of that debt by myself by working 1 year. And I have done that during almost all 2024 too, which helped me get out of financial debt to an institute which the National Institute for Debt in Sweden called Kronofogden. When your debt get to them, you basically get locked out of society, because as long as I've been had my debt to Kronofogden, I haven't been able to put a phone in my name. I can't take a loan for anything, even a car or anything like that. I can't put my name on a contract for a living. Fortunately enough, I moved into this apartment, which I have been have had as my address since before that. No, sorry, I'm misremembering now. When I moved into this apartment, my parents had to vouch for me. They had to co-sign for this apartment. And in Sweden, when you do that for somebody else, you take on the debt that they... If I wouldn't have paid for my apartment, my dad would be financially responsible for the money I don't pay. So technically I am not in full possession of my apartment, even as a primary renter, because I have co-signed with my dad, because I couldn't take this contract on by myself because I was at Kronofogden. But for a year, very soon, a year and a half ago, I got rid of that by the help of my parents to get it down to the level below that, and have been paying off my debt so far, and I'm almost debt free to all my past debt except for student loans and the debt I have from my mom and dad, or to my mom and dad, which I will continue paying down with every penny I can and every crown I can till that debt is paid and I'm debt free, and I will succeed. And this is the first step in that plan. But back to school. So my math has always been easy for me, and to put it into perspective, when I here in Sweden we go to preschool, then we go to primary school, which is 1 through 9, then we go on to what we call gymnasium in Sweden. It's equivalent to college, I would say. I might be wrong. I haven't really read up on how it levels out that way, but I digress. In my second year of the gymnasium, I had math, what we called then Math B, which was the advanced math after primary school. Math A was before Math B, but that was just like a repetition from what we learned in primary school. But I went the entire second year of gymnasium studying Matte B, or Math B. And the third year I was supposed to go from Math B to Math C, which is even more advanced math, because I was studying something that had that as a, how do you call it? You have to do that class to be able to graduate that field. So, but the problem was that at the end of Math B course, we needed to have a national test. The unfortunate part was when we had that national test, I was in vacation with my sister and my parents in Thailand for 2 months. And that test was in the middle of that trip, so I couldn't attend. And it didn't matter how much we fought for me to be able to redo or have a second chance to do the test so I can finish that course. But there were no way to do that. So basically for my third year in the gymnasium, which, by the way, during all this time I was heavily depressed and suicidal. So I had a lot of shit going on in my personal life, which highly affected my performance at school. But the important part about the math is that I was forced to retake the entire Math B course at the same time that I was going for Math C. So I basically read 2 courses at once. And I passed them both. And sure, I didn't get high grades on it, but I passed, which to me indicates that I could take 2 math courses at the same time, do the national test on Math B and passing both in 1 year. I think that's kind of impressive on that level to do that while battling with what I battled with at the same time, because I was in and out of hospital because of my depression and my problems that surrounded that, which I will go into more in future video. But I've always loved to learn new stuff. That's why I've always loved school for school part. And I've always had good relationships with most of my teachers, both teachers and staff. For instance, my favorite thing that I have from my childhood, which is the story I'm gonna end with in this update, because time is going on right now, nearly 15 minutes into this video, and these are gonna be short videos, so I will continue in the next update, but I'll end on this. When I went to school 1st grade to 3rd grade, we had localized kitchens. So every school had its own kitchen and food ladies. I don't remember what it's called in English, but the people who served food, made the food and served the food. Every Christmas, they would make a special bread called mummabröd. Bröd is bread in Swedish. and they called it mumma bröd. Mumma is basically a derivation of mumma. A little Swedish for you. But the important thing about that is I fell in love with that bread because it's so good that I ran home after the first time I've had that bread and said, I love that bread so much, I want to have that all the time. And what my mother did was she encouraged me to go to that dinner lady or lunch lady. Lunch lady is the name in English. I went to that lunch lady who had made the bread every Christmas and asked for a recipe. And I got the recipe because she was so happy that I went up to her and said to her how much I loved her baking, her bread. It was one of my favorite breads, still is to this day. And every Christmas since then, my mom has specifically made a big loaf. You made it in a big pan, like the big pan you put in your oven. The deep pan. You make it in that. And she has made a loaf of that bread for me for every Christmas since. That is nearly 30 years now that I have gotten that bread. And I every time I get that loaf at Christmas from my mom, I always stop for a minute somewhere and just reflect over how thankful I am for that dinner lunch lady and what all the lunch ladies did for us back then, because in 3rd grade, unfortunately, our government chose to cut down on school spending, and the way they did it was that they centralized the kitchens, and the food went to shit. Before that, I have always loved food ever since I was little, except for a few periods in my life, which I will go into later. But to end this video quickly, I had 2 to 3 plates every day of the food we got from the lunch ladies from 1st grade to 3rd grade, because I loved their food so much. And then they centralized and moved the kitchen who made our school food 2.5 mile. I don't know how, 25 kilometers. I don't know the conversion rate, but you can Google it if you want to have it in miles or anything like that. But I digress. After that, the food went to shit, and I never ate more than 1 plate at school again. Which shows you how terrible it is to cut down on school spending. And I will one day in the future fight for that, because our kids in the future need good food to sustain their growth and learning. And that's it for this update. More from school in the next update. Take care for now. Bye bye.